This is your Practical Research 2 class, Quantitative Research for Quarter 1, Week 1, Module 1. Our learning competency: describe characteristics, strengths, weaknesses, and kinds of quantitative research. Let us do the first task. We're going to identify which is qualitative or quantitative research. We have here the first one, the rich culture of Luma in Mindanao. Number 2, prevalence of tuberculosis in province of Antique. 3, stem cell therapy for cancer treatment. 4, level of knowledge of senior high school learners on COVID-19. 5, teaching personnel's perspective on COVID-19 pandemic. 6, percentage of upon national high school's wastes classification. 7, level of satisfaction of parents to modular learning. 8, the effects of COVID-19 pandemic upon Iloilo. 9, the correlation of daily allowance and academic performance of upon national high school's learners. And 10, the health safety practices of upon national high school. And let me check. Check your answer with this one. Okay, so now we will know, now remember your qualitative research topics. Okay. So let me show you the difference of quantitative and quantitative research using the parameters on the left side of the table. Okay. For general framework, quantitative research seek to confirm hypotheses about phenomena, while qualitative seek to explore phenomena. Quantitative instruments use a more rigid style of eliciting and categorizing responses to questions, while qualitative instruments use more flexible, iterative style of eliciting and categorizing responses to questions. Quantitative use highly structured methods, such as questionnaire surveys and structured observation, while qualitative use semi-structured methods such as in-depth interviews, focus groups, and participant observation. For analytical objective, quantitative um, use to or explore on to, to quantify variation, to predict causal relationship, to describe characteristics of a population. While qualitative to describe variation, to describe and explain relationships, and to describe individual experiences, to describe group norms. The question format for quantitative is closed-ended, while qualitative is open-ended question. Then, for data, it uses numerical obtained by assigning numerical values to response, while qualitative use is textual, is in textual data format, which is obtained from audio tapes, video tapes, and field notes. While the flexibility in sub-design, quantitative sub-design is stable from beginning to end. Participant responses do not influence or determine how and which question researchers ask next. Study design is subject to statistical assumptions and conditions. While qualitative research, some aspects of the study are flexible, for example, addition, exclusion, or wording of particular interview questions. Participant responses affect how and which questions researchers ask next. Study design is iterative, that is, data collection and research questions are adjusted according to what is learned. So, based on your answers there, if you got it wrong, examine the numbers, you can go back in this data here to check why you got a wrong answer or a correct answer. Another one, to this parameter for common purpose, qualitative research discover ideas using exploratory research with general research objectives, while quantitative test hypothesis or specific research questions. For approach, qualitative research, observe and interpret, or quantitative research, measure and tests. The data collection approach, it is qualitative is unstructured, free form, while quantitative, structured, response, and categories provided. For researcher independence, researcher in qualitative research is intimately involved and results are subjective. Quantitative research, researcher are uninvolved, observer only, and results are objective. Samples, small samples often in natural settings for quantitative, while quantitative research large samples to produce generalizable results which apply to other situations. And most often, exploratory research designs for qualitative research and descriptive and causal research designs for quantitative research. For quantitative, here are the quantitative methods which deals with measurable data. It is the data that is codified, meaning it has the data that can be directly measured. The data is with respect to some known units of measurement. The units are known, so comparisons of measurements are possible. The comparisons are numerically based. Results are based and judged on such data comparisons. Quantitative methods are often used in technical fields such as in sciences and engineering. There are four types of quantitative research. What are they? Descriptive, correlational, quasi-experimental, and experimental research design. Let's start with descriptive design. Descriptive research design seeks to describe the current status of variable or phenomenon. Researcher does not begin with a hypothesis, but typically develops one after the data is collected. Data collection is mostly observational in nature. Next, number two, correlational design. It explores the relationship between variables using statistical analysis. However, it does not look for cause and effect, therefore it is mostly observation in terms of data collection. Number three, quasi-experimental design is also called a causal comparative research design, which seeks to establish a cause-effect relationship between two or more variables. The researchers do not manipulate independent variables. Control groups are identified and exposed to variables. The results are compared with the results from the control group and the group exposed to the variable. Fourth is experimental designs. Through experimentation, use the scientific method to establish cause-effect relationship among a group of variables in a research study. The effects of the independent variable on the dependent variable are collected and analyzed the relationship. So let's take a look at task 3. They are going to provide three research questions and determine the type of research design. So first one is given. So you have to write here question or the research question. Then you have to identify whether what type of quantitative research design that's the wrong to update. So after that, you're done with writing your questions and research questions. Okay. To summarize, quantitative methods are those that deal with data that can be measured, can be directly measured. The amount is always with respect to known units of measurements, and it is always numerically measurable and numerically based. Results from quantitative researches are based and judged on data comparison. It is often used in technical fields, sciences, and engineering. There are four types of quantitative research: descriptive, correlational, quasi-experimental, and experimental research design. Here are the examples. For example, for descriptive research design, for example title here, parents' attitude towards the new normal in education. For correlational, you ask for the relationship. As you have there, what is the relationship of social economic status and level of adaptation to the pandemic? Oh, you have there. Then number three, quasi-experimental design. example here, learners' performance in college with intervention. You can have also other examples for that. Um, you can develop um, questions or titles like this one. Then there's performance, academic performance, like that in senior high school, for example. Okay, number four, experimental research design. Effect of sunlight on the growth of number speeds. Usually, that they're follow the scientific method in achieving the result in experimental research design. Okay, for quantitative method, quantitative data are pieces of information that can be counted and which are usually gathered by surveys from large numbers of respondents, randomly selected for inclusion. Okay, so you have here the different way of how to select your respondents here. It could be random. It could be randomly selected. Secondary data such as census data, government statistics, health system metrics are often included in quantitative research. Quantitative data is analyzed using statistical methods. You use there your SPSS in order to interpret your data. Then quantitative approaches are best used to answer what, when, and who questions and are not well suited to how and why questions. And those who are, if you answer the how and why questions, it is already qualitative research. Okay, for quantitative research, here are the strengths and the limitations of, of quantitative research. Okay, number one, strength of quantitative research, findings can be generalized if the selection process is well designed and samples representative of study population. It is relatively easy to analyze and data can be very consistent, precise, and reliable. But its weaknesses are related secondary data is sometimes not available or accessing availability is difficult or impossible. Difficult to understand context of a phenomenon, and data may be robust enough to explain complex issues. Okay, so I gave you also for comparison that of the quantitative based method. So you have to check that. Okay, take note for quantitative research, it aims to characterize trends and patterns. It often involves numbers and measurements. While qualitative research involves processes, feelings, and motives, whys and hows, and procedures in depth and holistic data. So for your task 4, you have to complete. I wrote this hashtag because. Okay. Then for your enrichment activity, write at least 3 possible topics you want to work with in your quantitative research proposal. So you write that in your sheet of paper and submit that. So it should be smart, it should be specific. Take note, a broad topic that cannot be measured, that's impossible to generate data, is very hard to conduct in research. You must make it specific. So it should be smart, measurable. How are you going to measure that? You take note, you check if there are instruments for that, and are there studies that um, have, have been conducted in line with your topic. Then is it attainable? Can you really finish that? Can you finish your topic, which was your topic for a specific time? Is it relevant? Since this time is pandemic, so this time we have the existing this trying time. Is it relevant? Is your study relevant? Next is time-based. Can you give a specific time that you can finish your work, or you just started it and then you do not know when to finish it? That It takes a semester, since we read a semester, to finish our proposal and our study. Is it uh, that your chosen topic, you can finish that in one semester? You are going to make it time-based or time-bounded. Okay, at the end of this presentation, I gave you some more readings for types of quantitative design or research design. So you have here the table, you have your definition, then you have here your examples. You can check that. Then, what is the basic methodology for a quantitative research design? Okay, we have here also, you're given um, extra information if you need that. Okay, so to assess your learning, you answer question 1 to 5 on. We have question 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You make it, you answer true or false. Write that and pass it to me during the return of your module. Okay, thank you very much. Good luck. Your first part of the quantitative uh, research class. Thank you very much. We have acknowledged also the Division of Individual Development Team for our self-learning package. Thank you. God bless to your um, quantitative research journey.